right? Okay. So in last session, we had discussed about the 5 elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas, right? The role of Pancha Mahabhutas in our body is they are the framework. Okay. So our body, you must have seen. So where does this Pancha Mahabhuta concept come from? The Pancha Mahabhuta concept, Pancha Mahabhuta here is reference to the 5 elements. Okay, for all the people who are new to this word of 5 elements. Okay, just a minute. Okay. All right. So just for your reference, the 5 element is the Pancha Mahabhutas, right? And it is very important for us to understand that this 5 element forms the basis or our existence. Okay, what are the 5 elements? Prithvi, Jal, Vayu, Akash, and Agni, right? Prithvi, Jal, Akash, Vayu, and Agni. These are the 5 elements. Earth, then space, right? Then air or wind, fire, and water. Okay, so these 5 elements will be useful for you throughout. 5 elements concept is not just a native concept of Ayurveda. It is coming from Sankhya philosophy. Okay, Sankhya philosophy. How many of you know about the Sankhya philosophy or heard about the Sankhya philosophy? So there are 6 self philosophies in Indian tradition. Okay, which takes Vedas as their basis, and they talk about they believe in God, and there are 3 which don't believe in God. They don't believe in Vedas. One of the 6 philosophies which talk about God existence, right, and the Vedas is Sankhya. Yoga is also one of the philosophies. You must have heard about Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, Vedanta. These are all the different. Then Jainism, Buddhism. These are the philosophies which and Charvak. So these 3: Jainism, Buddhism, and Charvak don't believe in God, don't believe in Vedas. So this is also a philosophy. All the philosophies' main goal is to achieve the highest state of consciousness. Okay, so Sankhya is one of the most intricate or most detailed philosophies, and it is very complex. There are a lot of metaphysics involved in Sankhya philosophy. Okay, it's very, very complex. So in that, the Prakriti and Purush concept comes, right? You must have heard about the Prakriti and Purush, Shiva, Shakti, right? So this concept comes where and through the Prakriti and Purush forms the 5 elements, right? These 5 elements are very, very essential aspects to understand the existence and to understand the human body. Understand one thing, that you have to be connected to the gross, to the subtle 5 elements. Okay, so whatever elements which you are seeing outside, the same elements have to be present inside, or they are present inside. Okay, inside the human body, like your earth element. How what can you correlate to the earth element? If you see in the nature, the earth element is something which is stable, right? You see the examples of mountains. Mountains are very stable. Once they are destroyed, it takes time for them to come back to its form. Their growth is very slow, but once they grow, they cannot come back. What qualities which are seeing? We are seeing the qualities of slow, stable. What are something similar to this in our body? Cartilage, bones, right? This is something which is similar to the earth element. Prithvi Mahabhut. Your bones are something. When you have a fracture, it takes 2-3 months. Right? When you get a skin cut, it heals quickly in 3-4 days. But when it is a fracture, femur bone fracture, 6 months it takes, right? So it takes time for the fusion, healing to happen. Earth element is involved. Earth element is the grossest. What is the meaning of gross? Gross means something which you can touch, which you can observe, which is in the physical form. So earth element has the maximum mass of the 5 elements. It is the heaviest. Your weight or your body weight or your mass is calculated in regards to the Prithvi element, the earth element, right? And the water element. That gives us the body weight. Okay. After earth element is the water element. What does the water element do? Water element is there present and it is flowing. What does the rivers do? What does the rivers? Why do we have rivers? Why we have ocean? Scientists, you must, this is very common and very everybody must be knowing it. What, because of water we are surviving. All the space programs are in search of water. Why? Because water is the basis of existence. And it is the maximum element which is present in the body. Why? Because it is required for binding. It holds on to everything. Right? So water element, what does the river do? River is flowing. Through the flowing of river, the towns are settled, right? Mostly in previous times in Harappa civilization or different old civilization, towns were always settled or starting from where the river was. Why? Because it is easier for development. What is similar to in our body? The blood flowing. All the blood flowing, the arteries, capillaries, veins, these are the channels through which the water flows, the water element. This concept of water is flowing. And what does the blood do? The blood gives nutrients to the cells, right? It's similar. Then, so this is water element, earth element. Fire. What does the fire do? Fire element is required. The invention of fire was a very big landmark in our history. Why? Because that is where through which we could understand if there is something in one form, it can be converted to something which can be utilized. Right? So the conversion, the sun, which is the biggest source of fire element, is the one which is giving us food. The photosynthesis cannot happen if sun is not there. The plants cannot create chlorophyll, right? ATPs. If the plants cannot prepare the food, how will the animal survive? How will the human being survive, right? For existence, for energy, the sun energy transformation is required. All the chemical reactions require fire for chemical reactions to happen, right? You in chemistry, you have heard most of the chemical reactions happens when there is fire element involved, right? You must have seen there is a dot, there is an arrow, and you put a triangle on top of that. That is an indication of the fire or the heat which is given for transformation to happen. In our body, where does transformation happen? Transformation happens at every level, right? From the intellect to the eyes to the food, intestine, small intestine, cells, tissues, everything is transforming. We are not the same. We are changing. How is the change happening? Through the force of transformation. Ayurveda says, when the Agni subsides, we subside. So when the day when your fire is destroyed is the time when we are destroyed. There is no existence without fire. The fire is required for our existence. And that is how the whole energy or the whole concept of working for better health is to develop or work with the fire, around the fire. Okay, so understand it in a gross level and the subtler level also. understanding of you through an Ayurvedic perspective, as an Ayurveda student, as a beginner, would also mean that you have to be in connection to these 5 elements as well, in whatever form. Okay, because what does Ayurveda say is that human body is a part of the 5 elements, but there is always some elements which are lacking, some elements which are more, right? And there is always an exchange which is happening. So we have to keep the exchange healthy. What happens when we are living in a sedentary city life? What happens? Tell me. And why it is not good? Why is sedentary life not good? Tell me. Yes, participate. What happens in sedentary life? You are in a box for the times, right? What is this box made up of? Concrete, right? Air is controlled. You're not in connection with the fire. You're not in connection with the space, right? Everything is manipulated, right? Even if it feels like nature, it is not nature, because nature is something which is much more vast, okay? And it is much more macro, at a macro level, okay, rather than micro level, right? So it is very important that, and that is why most of our problems arises. It might look very complicated, but that is where how things get complicated, because first step is you being away from the elements, the 5 elements, right? The 5 element is not the cement. The earth element, yes, it is, but it is just one form of it. Cement has certain kinds of minerals, just that kind of minerals. But a soil which is naturally present has different forms of minerals which you interact with. And what we are made up of? We are made up of zinc, magnesium, copper, all these minerals which are there. That is what we are made up of. What are we lacking? We are lacking these elements, right? And that then where are we taking these elements from? We are taking it through pills. Where is this pills created? They are created in the pharmacies. How are they creating it? Taking through the nature and making it in a tabular form. But can you absorb? That is what we're going to understand today. It's not just enough to just keep feeding things. It is also how you absorb. If absorption is not good, nothing is going to help you. That is where the Agni comes in. You learn, if you have to live healthy, you have to learn, if you have to understand that Agni will be very, very important. There are different forms of Agnis, and there are 3 kinds of Agnis. Do you know the 3 forms, or Ayurveda, have you read or came across different types of Agnis according to Ayurveda? What are the 3 types? Can you write down in the chat? Write down in the chat if anybody knows. We had last week, we did not have, so I think Tikshna. You're talking about the types of Agni, but it is the Jathar Agni. 3 main types are Jathar Agni. I am writing down in the whiteboard. So just follow the whiteboard. The 3 main types of Agnis which we are going to discuss, not detail, but very brief, is Jathar Agni. Okay, Jathar Agni, Bhuta Agni. What do you remember from the word Bhut? Not the ghost. Yes. What do you remember from the word Bhut? Bhuta.
Pancha and Mahabhutas.
Mahabhut, elements. Okay, so the energy, the Agni which is related to the Mahabhut is the Bhuta Agni, and Dhatu Agni is associated with the elements. The body tissues, the 7 body tissues. Okay, so these are the three main types of Agni. These are the 3 main types of Agni. Right? Very, very important. All right. So coming from Agni, so Agni transforms. Then coming to air. What does the air do? Air helps you to move. The movement is presented to us with the air element. All the factors in our body which is moving is air. Remember this one line, highlight it. May it be anything. Right? It can be the movements of your hands, it can be the blinking of your eyes, it can be the movement of the intestine, peristalsis. Now, what do you mean by air? We have to understand that these are 2 different languages. Okay, our body is the same, so how can it be interpreted differently? It is just the language. The language of interpretation is different. They are talking air, but modern science has come up with a better word, which is nervous system. Like the nerves which give stimulation helps you to move. Without nervous system, there is no movement. So who is involved? The air element is involved. The air is associated to energy. Okay, like it is also associated. Basically, it is just main form of air can be associated to movement. Where in the body is air? Everywhere. Wherever, right from the small cellular movements which are happening to the gross movements with like moving my hands. What is happening in the cells? The exchange, the intracellular movements which are happening. If you go on YouTube, you see movements which are happening in the cell. You can get good videos of like different images which are through scans, CT scans, where there are live scans which are being done. How cells are coming in, how cells are going out. Like not cells, but like fluids which are exchanging, right? So everything happens with a force. Don't think that everything happening automatically. Does this movement happen in dead? So what is different in the dead which is present in us? This is the 5 elements. The elements are active. The interaction of the elements is happening. Another important point, the 5 elements are together interacting with each other. Without the interaction, existence cannot happen. They are not individualized. They are working together. Okay. So this 5 elements plays a very important role with air. Then comes the space, which is the most grossest, the most lightest, and the most formless element which is present. Does space has a form? No. If I want to make this room in a square, I can make it in a square. If I want to make it in a hexagon, I can make it in a hexagon. The space will still remain. Space is infinite but constant. Okay, the space is infinite but it is constant. Okay, does not move, is immobile. In our body, the space element is present everywhere, but the subtlest form of the space element is given to the Atma, or the soul? Do you know what is the size of the soul? Have you ever had a curious question of understanding what might be the size of your soul? Is it like you? Your height 5'6" or it might be bigger than you or smaller than you. What do you think? Have you thought about it ever? What might be the size of your soul? You might say mostly it should be what your size is, right? But then they are saying that your physical body is just for this life, and then next life you might be different. So maybe Veronica is 5'6" today, but in next life she is 6'10". So the soul become bigger or smaller or what? So what is the right answer? So that is where this knowledge comes. It is formless. It can also become the soul. Our soul can also be in an ant. So maybe in previous life we also would have been an ant. That is where the spiritual knowledge says that there are 72,000 different yonis through which we travel, right? So the beings which are higher to us than lower to us. So basically, the soul does not have any form. It can go into an elephant also, and it can go into an ant also. It can also come in a human. So our soul is formless. That is where the space element is. Okay. The space element is very, very important. And the space, the form, the structure of us helps us to be balanced, calm. And it is basically associated with meditation, right? So every element has certain practices to be worked with. Grossest is physical exercises, the gross body. When we come to Agni, like in yoga, we work with the Jala Mahabhuta can be practiced. Jala Mahabhuta gets influenced by the moon energies, moon cycles. It affects the Jala Mahabhut in our body. The fire element is affected by the sun, also by the hormones, which is also related to the sun, right? The air element is associated by the air which is going around. So different places, different effects to the air. And likewise the Akash, right? So more higher you go altitude wise, more Akash element you can be in tune with, more air elements. So that is how it works basically. But it becomes more difficult also. If the element becomes bigger than you, it is also difficult to manage, because we are just a small representation of the big. Okay, so this is a different concept altogether. We will not go into that. But what we have to understand through this, we have to understand that the doshas, the three doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, are controlling the five elements. We are made up of the five elements. Understand this very clearly. We are made up of the five elements, and the three doshas are working in our body to work with the five elements. Right? So what does that mean? Fire element is controlled by the Pitta dosha. Does this mean fire element is Pitta dosha? No. Okay. Otherwise, they would have not given two different names to it. Air and ether element, Akash and Vayu is controlled by the Vata dosh. Vata dosh. Air and ether. Space and air or Akash and Vayu. The Sanskrit name is Akash and Vayu. The English names is air and ether. They are controlled by what? Vata. The Vata dosha in our body is controlling this. The Kapha is controlled by the water and earth element. Okay, so this is the combinations which they are working with. So what does this mean? This means that somebody has to take care of the processing of these elements. Okay, the fire element can also be, so basically the pitta is also, water element is also associated with pitta, but it is not in a dynamic form. Fire is more dominating the pitta, right? So these are the 5 elements control of the doshas. So now what does the doshas do? Doshas are energies. Can we see the elements in physical form? Yes, some gross elements can be seen in physical form, but doshas cannot be seen in a physical form. They are manifestations of how the 5 elements are functioning. There's a manifestation of how the 5 elements are functioning. They are the ones which create balance or disturb the balance. That is why I simply explained that the balance of the 3 doshas creates health, and the imbalance of the 3 doshas creates disease. The balance of the 3 doshas creates health, and the imbalance of the 3 doshas creates disease. You are health, you are disease. Everything is within you. There is nothing different or apart from what is going to happen within you. Your body creates cancer, your body destroys cancer. Right? It is how your body reacts, adapts, balances. And that is why we are the drivers. So we are the driving forces for our body. How you act, react to different situations, how you manage, have knowledge about different situations is going to build ability for you to make it stronger or make it weaker. Because we see that the elements are the same, the doshas are the same. Right? Easy or difficult? Are you understand? Everybody are able to understand, follow what we are discussing? Okay? Okay. If you're not able to follow, let me know. Thank you. All right. So what we are going to understand, we are going to understand the 3 doshas. The 3 understanding of the 3 doshas might be boring, interesting, depends on you. But that is how it is. The understanding of the doshas will give you a lot of understanding. But before we go into understanding of the doshas, we are going to understand Agni. Okay, the Agni is something which is very, very important. I am just going to give you a brief about what this Agni are. Okay, so we are talking first about the Jathar Agni. Jathar. The Jathar means gut. Actually, the gut word comes from gutter. Gutter. Yes. The gut word comes from gutter. In India, it's a Hindi word. Gutter is a Hindi word. In India, there are some channels which are present in cities where the sewage water or the bad water goes through. This is called as the gutter. So the gut word is coming from that. Okay. So Jathar Agni. Agni is fire. Can everybody see the whiteboard? And Jathar is the gut. So where the fire which is controlling the gut is called as the Jathar Agni. This is the first line of your defense. Okay. Then the Dhatu Agni is associated with the Dhatu means the 7 body tissues. Which are the 7 body tissues? Rasa, plasma, Rakta, blood, Mounsa, muscle, Rasa Rakta Mamsa, Medha, fats, Asti is bones, Majja is bone marrow, and Shukra. Shukra is seminal fluids. Okay, so this is the Dhatu Agni. We'll not talk about Bhuta Agni now because I don't want to confuse you. We'll talk about it later. Okay, so first let's discuss little bit in detail about Jathar Agni. What is Jathar Agni? Basically, if you see our digestive system, it is our stomach is a J-shaped organ, and this is the esophagus, right? Where does the food which we eat go? It goes into your stomach. What happens in the stomach? Food breaks down, right? Whatever you ate in the lunch or dinner has already broken down. What Ayurveda says is, Ayurveda says that this food which we have eaten is going to break down into Sara and Kitta. Sara and Kitta. Sara means the nutritive part of the food, and Kitta is the waste. Both are important. Sar and Kitta, the two processes of digestion which happens is they are getting converted into Sar and Kitta. Okay. So this is the essence of the food. So whatever you ate a pizza. The essence of the food would be say 10%, 20%. So you see, ate something nutritive. The essential part of the food might be 70%. The waste would be 30%. So the food determines how much essential part it has in it. And it also determines how, and also there's another factor which is determining how much essential part can be taken is your digestive fire. Okay, if your digestive fire is not, even if you eat the best quality food, it is not going to give you the 70% essential part of that food, right? Understanding clear? Right? Okay. So then the Sara Bhag and Kitta Bhag, these are two parts. Now what happens with the essential part? What happens with this essential part? This essential part is now been utilized for making you. Right? It has been used to nourish this 7 body tissues. Each dhatu, remember, and this just focus on this line. Each dhatu, each tissue has its own fire. Each tissue has its own fire. So when the nutritive part, the essence of your food comes to the rasa dhatu, first it will nourish the plasma. When the plasma is properly nourished, then it will convert for the nutritive part to go to the second tissue. Then it will go to the third tissue. Then it will go to the fourth tissue. That is how it goes all the way. That is why what you eat is very, very important. If you eat junk food, eat fast food, you're not going to reach the lower elements, lower tissues. You're just going to nourish the rasadhatu. But your bones, your bone marrow, your seminal fluids, your immunity is not developing. Also, if your Agni is weak, then also you will not be able to produce or transform this to the later dhatus. Are you understanding? So that is why what is important? Good food is important and good Agni is important. Both are very, very important factors. Without both, you cannot be healthy. Even if one is missing, it is going to affect you. Clear? Any doubt? If you have any questions, please ask. No questions? Are you understanding? If there is no questions, it means two things. You are not understanding or you're understanding everything. I hope you're understanding everything. Okay. So now what we are discussing what happens with the waste. So waste also has to happen. There should be something which happens with the waste. Waste is not just your stool, right? What is waste? Waste is also your sweat, urine, and stool. How to improve Agni? That is why we are doing this course. We'll come to it. Right? So, sweat, urine, and feces. So, where is sweat coming from? Where does the sweat come from? From your skin. So, it is the waste of your skin. Where is the urine coming from? From the kidneys. So, it is the waste of the fluids. Where is the stool coming from? It is coming from the where is everything getting converted from? The food which you are eating. You are eating just food. It is going into different forms. You know, Vata, Pitta, Kapha is also waste. Excreta coming out of your ears, eyes. Excreta means waste coming out of your eyes. Does waste come out of your eyes? Yes, every morning you clean your eyes, right? It is a waste. You clean your nose, it is a waste. You clean your ears, it is a waste. Waste coming from your mouth, hair follicles, genitals, skin. If you don't take bath for 3 days, what happens? What happens? If you don't clean your skin, do you know black color dust is there? With what is that? The dead skins also is there. Our body shreds a lot of dead skin. Okay, so that is what waste. Okay, hair is also a waste. Ayurveda considers hair to be the waste of bones. Just for your knowledge, if your bones are weak, your hair quality will not be good. So whenever you feel that your hair, there is a hair loss, check your bone density, check how your bones are. Because hair is a waste of bone. Okay, beard, small hairs of the body, nails is also waste of the bones. So if your bone tissue is not functioning properly or not being nourished properly, your nails will not be good, hair will not be good. Clear understanding? Or is it becoming too complicated for you? Okay. Say yes, and everybody say yes in the chat box. If you're understanding, say no if you don't understand. So I can understand how you have to go about. Okay. Anytime you feel that you're not understanding, please mention most of it. Okay, Mini, most of it. Okay, Mini, try to now understand all of it. Okay, if you don't understand all of it, check the recordings. All right. Okay. So what we are discussing that the food which you ate banana. So in the banana, there was 30% waste, 70% essential part. What did the 70% essential part happen with this 70% essential part? It went to your plasma. It nourished the plasma. If there was something remaining, it went to the bones. Sorry, it went to the blood. If there was something, it went to the muscles. Okay. So different food categories have a tendency to reach different levels. That is why there are certain food items which are ojas. They build ojas. You know why? In Ayurveda, now I will can tell you why in Ayurveda light food is not so, in Indian culture at least, in our homes, everybody said, don't eat light, eat properly, eat well, right? You must have seen or heard, at least in India it is said. I don't know about maybe Italy or Europe, but in India at least it is said that eat well, don't eat light, right? Why? Because light food does not have the tendency to go to the deeper tissues. They are not able to nourish the deeper tissues. We are taking just light food just because we cannot digest it. There are very different concepts, right? Don't get confused. Light food is used in spiritual path because the body is already developed at 12 level. And then their focus is on the mind. And their utilization of the physical body is minimal. When you are living in a normal world with normal activities, doing normal stuff, you require your body to function to its best, right? So in that case, what is there? What is important? What is important is that you have good food which have the ability to reach the all the body tissues and fulfill the ojas, right? So that is why I will give you a list of things which are good, healthy, strong, which can reach to the deeper tissues. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, today we are going to discuss Agni, so let's focus on Agni. Okay, the concept is to understand Agni. Now, what are the functions of Agni? Let's see what has the Agni designed to do. Agni is designed to give you life. Agni gives you life. See how important Agni is. Imagine, think of you and think that your Agni is weak. It is not giving you life. It is making you're not at your optimum. And what is happening with today's major population? They have weak Agni. The digestive fire is the most disturbed. Why it has been disturbed? Because we have not respected the Agni. You know, a simple example which I can give you, even if you sit near fire during fire ceremony, still it improves your Agni. Just a small example. Okay, so Agni is improved internally, externally as well, right? Gives you color, complexion, your fire, how well, if your digestion is good, your skin is glowing. It gives you color, complexion. Agni is directly related. It gives you strength, immunity. I told you already how it gives you strength, immunity. Then it gives you good health, which is again life. But life is much better. It gives you energy. It gives you enthusiasm. If you're lacking enthusiasm, build your Agni. It gives you shape. It gives you form. It gives you aura. Agni is Tej Mahabhut, Tejas, Tejasvi, we call it. Aura. Aura is the shine, glow, the inner brilliance which is there. Radiance, we call it. Aura. Tej. And it helps you to balance your prana. That is why in yogic path, Saman Vayu, okay, 6-1 is shape. Shape, yes. That is why in a yogic lifestyle, Samana Vayu is given a lot of importance. Samana Vayu. If you want good, healthy, strong, proper body, you have to work with your Samana Vayu. And it is worked with Apana, which is pulled upwards through Muladhara, Mulabandha, and the prana vayu, which is going upwards naturally, which is pulled down. When you do kumbhaka, when you do jalan bandhas, we work on the samana vayu. You ignite the samana vayu. Very, very important. In yogic path, in Ayurveda, Agni is given importance. Through your spiritual path, your Agni has to be strong. Don't think of spiritual growth if your Agni is weak, because you will have a lot of blockages then. You will struggle a lot. Okay, clear? So why do we need Agni? I already told you. We need Agni because we need nourishment of the body tissues so that we create Ojas. What is Ojas? Is your homework. Okay, Ojas. What is Ojas? It is the vital essence of the body. It's not immunity. Immunity is just one part of Ojas. Okay, so you read about Ojas tomorrow. Your one thing which you have to read, put it in your diary, is Ojas. What is Ojas? Read about it. Read at least 2-3 articles of Ojas. Okay, that is your homework. Okay, understood, clear. Now let's come to the stomach. This is your stomach. Tell me what happens when you eat food. You ate 2 rotis, rice, salad, and what? Vegetables, cooked vegetables. Okay, good enough, right? So what happened? The first stage of digestion is called as Madhura Avastha Paka. Madhura Avastha Paka. For foreigners, it will be difficult, but stick to it. Madhura Avastha. Madhur means sweet. Sweet. Avastha means stage. And Pak means digestion. The first stage of digestion is when your body undergoes the sweet conversion. The carbohydrates which is getting converted, the starch which is getting converted, okay, which gives the system the coating. When you eat food, what happens? There is salivation which happens, right? The esophagus brings in water, mucus, right? So that the peristaltic movement, through the movement, the food can go down. When the food goes down, there is digestive juices which are released, which are sweet first. So that is the Kapha. Basically, this is the Kapha. Actually, it is a thin layer, thin frothy nature. It is in thin and frothy in nature. What is it? If you don't understand, please ask me. I can explain better also. Okay. So basically, what I am trying to understand is, make you understand is, when we eat food, the first part of the digestion is where the Madhur Avastha Pak. Okay. Whenever we are eating food of all the 6 days, the stomach undergoes the sweetness. It changes and it manifests the first stage of digestion. It results in stimulation of Kapha, which is thin and frothy in nature. So Kapha is released in the body. Okay. Then what happens is the second stage, which is the Amla stage. Amla is sour. So the digestion of food undergoes transformation, which is the Amla Avastha Pak. Amla Avastha Pak. Amlavastha Pak is when the food is in a semi-digested state. Food is in a semi-digested state, which is sour. And it stimulates the bile. You know bile? Have you heard about bile? Where is the bile released? The bile is released from the gallbladder. Where is the gallbladder? It is just below your liver. Where is the bile created? In your liver. So the bile is created in your liver, gets stored into the gallbladder, and is released by the gallbladder into your small intestine. So when the digestion enters the second stage of digestion, the food is sour. Okay? And it is dominated by Pitta. It is dominated by Pitta. Next time, if anybody asks you, why do you feel heavy after eating? It is because you are in the first stage of digestion, which is influenced by Kapha. That is why you feel heavy. Have you noticed heaviness after eating food? Yes. Most of the times you will see, if you eat a proper meal, a complete proper meal, there is some heaviness which is there. Because the food is in the first stage of digestion, which is the sweet taste. When it enters into the sour taste, which is the Pitta, is where your Pitta is activated. And you are in the middle part of the digestion. And the last is where the food enters into the last part of digestion, which is called as the Katu Avastha Pak. Katu Avastha Pak. What does Katu Avastha Pak means? Katu Avastha Pak is produced in the large intestine. When the food gets cooked and sorry, just a minute. Okay, when the food gets cooked and it is, you know what happens in the large intestine? The water from the food is taken away. Okay, the food dehydrated. That is how the stool becomes dry. Okay, so the dehydration process is happening and the food becomes Katu. Katu means what? Spice, like pungent tasting. Pungent. The food materials. Okay, and it is associated to Vata dosha. The first part of the digestion is associated to Kapha dosha. The second part of the digestion is associated with Pitta, and the third part of the digestion is called as the Katu Avastha Pak, is associated with the Vata dosha. Understanding this is very, very important. Now, what are the practical implications? Mostly, I will tell average. The process of food digestion might take 6 hours. 6 hours. Okay, roughly average, I'm saying it might take something from 2 to 6 hours. Okay, 2 to 6 hours, right? At the stomach level, the effects are more prominently seen. Okay, at the stomach level, the process is more prominently seen. So what do we see is, you divide this into 1, 1, 1. So if it is 6 hours, if it is taking, then 2 hours you will see that the heaviness, Kapha phase, 2 hours Pitta phase, 2 hours Vata phase, right? If it is 3 hours, if the food is taking lighter because you take lighter more, it might be 1 hour, right? That is how it is changing. So basically, that is why the practical implication of this formula to be understood by you is why you should not sleep during the daytime. If you sleep after food, or if you're having a habit of sleeping after food, immediately after food, what happens? You are in the first stage of digestion, right? What happens by if you are sleeping during that? What is sleeping? Sleeping is a Kapha activity. If you are just sleeping immediately after you are eating, Kapha multiplies by 2. What does it mean? It abnormally becomes imbalance. So Kapha problems can be originating from this habit. Just because you ate, you slept. Clear? You ate the food and after 1 hour you're eating something oily, fried, spicy, Pitta kind of food. You eat at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the day around the dinner, and you're awake until 12 o'clock. What do you eat at 12 o'clock if you want to snack? You eat chips, which are tasty, right? You eat pasta, spicy, tasty food. You will not eat khichdi or you will not eat moong dal soup, right? Never happened like that. Why? Because that is the body's demands. Because that time your body is asking for pitta cravings. Okay, just a minute. I'll just 1 minute of a break. Just take 2 minutes of break and come back. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. All right. So we are talking about pitta. So if you're eating something around the pitta time, is everybody back? I'll just wait for everybody to be back. I think some people are not here. Okay. So when we are talking about pitta, we are talking about, so what happens if you're eating food during the pitta phase, right? So what happens? The pitta aggravates. So what is said in Ayurveda, the second rule which is have to be followed is never eat before the previous meal is digested. Never eat before the previous meal is digested. So if you eat a meal, right? If you eat at 12:30, don't eat until you feel or you have reached Vata stage. You will, how can you understand? You will feel light. You will feel that the stomach is empty, right? These are two basic things which you feel. You feel light. No matter you are offered pizza, you are offered pastry, you are ordered anything, don't eat. That is the rule. Once in a while you have it, it's fine. But a person who is having a habit of having it regularly, they are creating imbalance for them. Okay, and that in imbalance is going to create disease. Okay, understood? Clear? I will just jump from this topic to another interesting topic, which is disease formation, because it is related. Okay, so disease there is called as the Kriya Kala, Shat Kriya Kal. So it is a very nice concept in Ayurveda which talks about how disease is formed. And this is, see why I am sharing this or teaching these topics to you, because these topics are not just for a medical perspective. These topics can be understood and implemented even in your daily lives. These are concepts which can be understood in every sense. Okay, so then Shat Kriya Kal, the first is called as the Chaya, which is accumulation. Chay. Then second is Prakopa, which is aggravation. Chay, Prakop, and Prasara. Chaya, Prakop, Pressure. Pressure is spreading. Ayurveda says this is the start of the disease. This is how the disease starts. So you keep eating at 11 o'clock in the night for a week. What is happening? Accumulation. What it will lead to? Aggravation of Pitta. What will happen due to that? Spread. I will give you an example. You will understand better. This is a glass. Okay. In this glass, there is accumulation which is happening. Every day, I am putting 2 drops of alcohol. Okay. What is happening? Accumulation. Every day I put accumulation. Now there is a bacteria acting, and there is aggravation. Automatically also there is aggravation which are happening because of different factors. So aggravation also happens with accumulation. Just a better example would be, suppose you bacterial infections or bacteria is the best example. You know, there is some dirt, and on that dirt the bacteria comes and acts. So the accumulation aggravates and it becomes waste, like it becomes bad smell, becomes more and more goes on increasing. Okay, so accumulation leads to aggravation. So the aggravation can only happen until when? You will not feel anything. See, aggravation, you will not feel anything until your body has the capacity. You are eating food or you are doing the bad things which are not good for your Pitta. For example, eating late night. This can happen until you have the capacity. What is your capacity? This is the capacity. What happens when the aggravation continues above the capacity? It spreads, it spills out. Spilling out here means what? It goes from one part of the body to another part, and it starts spreading through the circulation throughout the system. Example, skin problems. First, it starts with a small patch, right? Because the aggravation, first it starts with your blood becoming acidic because of your habits. Okay, very simple language I'm using. So you have a small patch on your skin. What happens after that? The patch starts becoming bigger. What happens after that? There is another patch which develops. What happens after that? The whole body gets affected. Accumulation, aggravation, spreading. This is the pattern of disease. You know what Ayurveda says? This is the unmanifested form of disease. Until this stages, you don't know that there is a problem. You don't know that there is a problem. You understand through the later stages. There are three more stages which I'm not going to share right now, later on. Okay, but this is the manifested state of a disease. So Ayurveda is that science which understands disease before it has been created, through accumulation, understanding through accumulation. All right? And that is why the preventive aspects are important, because the preventive aspects, the cleanses, the fasting, all this is going to work on the first 3 stages. All your good habits. all your cleanses which you have been doing, or all the fastings which you are doing, it is to remove the accumulation, aggravation, spread. So you are not making the disease so strong that it manifests into something which cannot be treated. Right? Understood? Clear? So that is where you have to understand that the process of disease, how disease happen, how it happens, when it happens. What did you understand from the chart which is in front of you? Understood that you should not sleep immediately after food. You should not eat immediately after having a meal. Wait until the food gets digested. Avoid sleeping. Who can sleep? Who can sleep? How many of you sleep during the daytime? How many of you love to sleep during the daytime? Right? Most of you would. So it is said that all the people, Vata, people who are doing Vata activities, singers, people who sing. How many of you sing here? Not for yourself, professionally singing. Singers can sleep during the daytime. People who speak a lot. People who are in a profession where they have to speak a lot. Yes. So you can sleep. In this, yoga teachers can come if they are taking 3-4 classes in a day. They can sleep. Because why? Because they are Vata increasing activity. And then, if you are doing heavy physical work, then you can sleep. If you are a Vata body type, then you can sleep. If you are undernourished or underweight, then you can sleep. Right? If you are having Vata related digestive problems like bloating, then you can sleep. Or constipation, then you can sleep. If you have been exhausted, your senses, if your senses are exhausted, then you can sleep. If your senses are exhausted, then you can sleep. Yes. So, and you can sleep in the summers because you lose a lot of energy. If you are a very strong physical work, if you work out a lot, a strong physical workout which you are doing, then you can sleep. Okay, so these are some of the factors which you can understand for you to sleep. If you're not falling in this category, don't sleep. If you're a kapha, gaining weight, want to lose weight, don't sleep. If your cholesterol is high, diabetic, don't sleep. Okay. If you are very lazy, lethargic, don't do any physical activity, sedentary lifestyle, don't sleep. Okay. So these are a few things which need to be understood and be mindful of. Clear? Now coming back to Agni. We were talking about the 3 parks, right? We talked about the Madhur Avastha Pak, we talked about the Amla Avastha Pak, and we talked about the Katu Avastha Pak. Clear? Any questions regarding this? It might be a little bit challenging, but you have to work hard. You have to read, you have to understand. I am just doing a small part for you, but small and important part. How much can we sleep? How much ever you want. But you should sleep. There is no, Ayurveda says, they does not give you any specific time period, but it says you should wake up at what time. So you know how much you have to sleep now. If you have to wake up at Brahma Muhurta, then you have to sleep accordingly, which might be around 6 to 7 hours, but you need to have a good deep sleep. the quality of sleep is much, much important than the quantity. You might, and you see the longer you sleep, more heavier your body becomes, more lethargic you become. It is not optimum. Okay, so the optimum is where you don't need stimulants to keep you awake. You don't need a cup of coffee. The energetic, the lightness, the energy is the right amount of sleep. If you don't feel that, work towards it. Okay, and you will feel. How many of you wake up and are energetic? How many of you waking up at Brahma Murta? How many of you have started to wake up 1.5 hour, 2 hours? Everybody is laughing. Everybody is forgotten after 2 weeks whatever was discussed. We had discussed very important, strong points, right? To decide, and the challenge aspects of things, to challenge yourself, to progress, right? So you have to apply. If you have not applied, this is the time. Otherwise, it will never happen. Of course, there can be good things also which can happen, but this is a good time to start, because we are discussing similar things which will motivate you, right? Clear? Now we are going to understand Agni and what does it do. So what we understood is the Agni, digestive fire, is very, very important for the balance, right? The Jathar Agni is what we are talking about. And the Jathar Agni needs to be in its right form. There are 3 types of Agni, of the Jathar Agni, which you have to be mindful, understand, and be clear about. Jathar Agni. We will talk in brief in today's session, and we'll talk more detail tomorrow. Okay. What the first one is called as the Sama Agni. Sama Agni. The second one is called as the Vishama Agni. Third is called as the Tikshna Agni. So the fourth one is called as the Manda Agni. So these are the 4 variations of the Agni. Let's talk about Sama Agni first. Let's talk about how your Agni. Of the four, these 3 are imbalance Agni, and Sama Agni is the balanced. We want to create Sama Agni. In the first lecture, when we were discussing the definition of health according to Ayurveda, Samadosha, Sama Agni, Samadhatu, Malakriya, Prasanna, Atma, Mana, Indriya, the word Sama Agni had came. Okay, so what is Sama Agni? Sama Agni is the balanced fire. What or how does it represent in the body? Can you tell me, can you describe how a balanced Agni should look like or feel like? Yes. Basically, there are 3 aspects of health, of digestion. First is the appetite, right? Which is the first. You feel hungry, hunger. Second is what? You feeling satiate, feeling satisfaction from the food which you're eating. The right quantity of food should give you right satisfaction. And it is not something which is common. Most of the times we don't know what is the right quantity for us. We keep eating, but still not fulfilled. When you eat the right quantity of food, it should give you right emotions. like calm, clear, loving state of mind, satisfaction. It should not make you anger, agitated, irritated, frustrated, sad, depressed, negative. Sama Agni results in happiness. Okay, basically that is Sama Agni results in happiness, perfect health. The third is that the elimination process happens properly. Elimination. Which gives us good amount of ojas. If these three faculties are taken care of, we create good amount of ojas, tejas, ojas, tejas, and prana. If you want these three things, then you need Samagni. Ojas is the building blocks of the body. Tejas is the aura, the brilliance, the radiance, which is present within you, and prana is the vital energy, which is associated for all functions. So that is consequence of Samagni. Unfortunately, in the modern times, Samagni is the most rare because of the foods which we are eating. Simple example, the food which we are eating in village, which is not chemically processed, or not, we are not putting a lot of chemicals, it is natural. The fulfilling feeling, food also gives us fulfilling feeling. When you eat a good, fresh, nice, healthy fruit, and a fruit which is not so healthy, looks sad in itself, right? You have seen sad fruits. There are so many in the market. What happens in that case? It is the vitality which is present within it. It is the ojas, which is the prana which is present within the food also. Okay, because of the high processed food supply chains which are there, the food having its nutritive value is less. So, in the first place, the food which you are eating is not of the good quality most of the times. Okay, high stress is a very important factor. Not having right amount of time, proper amount of time for food, not having a proper time, because we are living in a culture where self, giving importance to self is not so important, right? Is it true or not? We have to work, we have to be present, we have to be available, we have to give more. But then everybody, like most of the patients which I talk to, have this problem where they are in a corporate world or having a system where they don't have a proper timing to eat, right? So what happens due to that? It affects their health. Okay, well, so basically because of which the body, everything is disturbed. Okay, most of the systems gets disturbed. So basically, Sama Agni is when you get the right quantity of food, you feel hungry at the right. Another important thing is you feel hungry, but you're over hunger. There's so much hunger that you will eat and you eat anything. This is not also healthy. Why? Because it is also overdriven, right? So what is right? Right is when you feel hungry at the right amount, you eat food and you feel satisfaction, you eliminate well, the food gives you energy, you are happy, you are calm, you're clear, your mental faculties are properly functioning, and it gives you good motivation, energy. In an ideal world, this is possible. Okay, so that is the Sama Agni. How many of you feel that you have Sama Agni or are near to Sama Agni? Tell me. Why is the chat box empty? Waiting for your message. Somewhat near. Okay, so Priya says somewhat near. All right. What about others? Others are thinking. Confused. All right. So we'll stop today with Vishamagni because I want to talk in brief about Vishamagni. Let's stop today with Samagni. I will keep so you process whatever we have discussed in today's session. Okay. Tomorrow we are going to talk about the three imbalances and we'll try to cover the whole topic of Agni and we'll try to enter the dosha. Okay. So what you have to read tomorrow, you read about Ojas, Tejas and Prana. Three things you read. Ojas, Tejas and Prana. What is Ojas? What is Tejas? What is Prana? It is interesting. So it will help you in your work. All right. So thank you everyone. And share the recordings with you all. See you tomorrow, same time. Until then, you be prepared, read. Okay. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Bye bye. Thank you.